All right, everyone, we are going to start with our LinkedIn presentation. So I do have a guest presenter with me today. Her name is Peyton. I'm going to let her do a little intro in a second. So when we move into the exercises today in class, we ran out of handouts before, so if you didn't get all of the handouts, just raise your hand when we get to that point, and we'll bring them around to you. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Peyton for a second, let her talk a little bit about who she is and where she comes from.
Yeah, my name is Peyton Taylor. I work with Northwestern Mutual, so we are a comprehensive financial planning organization. We do have a few spring and fall and summer internship programs, so if any of you guys are interested, feel free to talk to me or Annie, and I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about the program a little bit later.
All right. So diving right in, you should all have a rubric with you that looks at what we're going to be grading you on as far as your LinkedIn profiles go. So this is just a basic rubric. We kind of want you to get set up with a basic profile here. This should be something that you kind of continuously work on throughout your time here at Daniels and then later on in your career too. So just because you kind of built a profile today doesn't necessarily mean it's good to go forever. You want to keep updating it just like you would update your resume. So just so you understand the importance of having a LinkedIn profile and interacting with the platform, in a survey from CareerBuilder from a couple years ago, so it's probably increased since then, 57% of employers said they're less likely to interview a candidate if they can't find them online. So that's more than half of employers. If you don't have a LinkedIn, they would just not interview you, or they're less likely to. And then more than 44% of employers have found content on a social networking website that caused them to hire the candidate. So if you have really good social media presence, a good LinkedIn profile, that can really help you in your search process. 70% of employers use social media to screen candidates, and that's up from the year before that, and that again was over a year ago, so it's probably even more than that now. So more than, probably around 3/4 of employers use this type of platform when they're looking for candidates. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about things that you'll wanna include in this basic profile, and then you can continue to build from there. But some of the main things, one of them is your headline. So I see a lot of students just write like, student at DU. That's helpful, at least you wrote something in there, but we want something that tells us a little bit more about you. So whether that's your major, whether that's an industry you're interested in, it could be your current internship or your current part-time job that you write in there. It could be something where you say, you know, aspiring social media expert or aspiring financial advisor or whatever it might be. So whoever's looking at your profile just has a little bit of a better picture of who you are by reading that headline. That's the first thing they're gonna see there. The other thing they're gonna see is your picture. So on the rubric, it says professional headshot. We don't necessarily want you to go out and pay somebody to take your pictures. You don't need to have a professional photographer do that. Basically, that just means it should look professional. You should be dressed professionally in it. It could be, you know, a friend goes outside with you, takes a picture against a nice background of just you by yourself, smiling, looking at the camera in professional clothing, or on a blank wall, something like that. So it doesn't need to be anything super fancy, so don't worry about that piece. The next thing would be your about section, or you'll see it called your summary sometimes. They kind of change it. Right now it's called about on the profile. So this should be about 3 to 5 sentences at least. And this can be a part of your profile that shows a little more personality, so it can be written in the first person. We'll talk a little bit more about what to include in that summary or in that about section, but it should be something along the lines of what you might say in your elevator pitch at a career fair or in a tell me about yourself question in an interview. So we'll give you a chance to practice that a little bit later and start crafting that. Experience. So with the experience section, you want to fill out that section as you would your resume. So anything on your resume should go in that experience section, and you'll want to include descriptions or the bullet points from your resume in that section. Your education, that's pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of plug that in. Your skills, I see a lot of students who will just put like Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, and that's all they put on there. But keep in mind, recruiters have their own version of LinkedIn, and so when they're on there searching for candidates, they're typing in key skills or keywords that they want their candidates to have. So in order for you to show up in their searches, you want to have those keywords on your profile, and your skills section is one way to do that. So if you're a really good team player, or if you're really good with financial analysis, or you're great with Excel, or whatever it is, be a little more detailed. Try to fill out that skills section with as many things as you can that would be relevant if you were looking for a job. And then your interests. So this is a section where we want you to follow at least 3 companies or organizations that you've been a part of or that you're interested in, or you can join groups. So for instance, there's a group called Daniels at DU. I would highly recommend joining. That's where a lot of our active alumni are, and you can participate in the group. You can post things, you can see who else is in there and send them messages. So that's a good group to join. But yeah, if you're applying at a company, they like to see that you're following them. So if they go to your profile and they see that you're following them, they might say, oh, they really are interested in us. They didn't just, send off random resumes. They're actually interested in seeing us. And when you follow a company or follow a university or whoever you're following, a person on LinkedIn, then they'll show up in your feed. And so you can see if they're posting jobs, if they're posting recent articles about their company, all that kind of stuff. All right. Anything you want to add about any of those topics? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the headline is definitely important. Making sure you put a headline in there that is focused on something that you're interested in, because recruiters do have the possibility on LinkedIn to type in certain words that pop up when you're looking for it. Putting your school in or having it under your education will bring that up if they're looking for someone here, but the field that you're interested in, just putting in that keyword will pull it up no matter what they're looking for, and that kind of puts you ahead of anybody who is interested in that but didn't put it there. The photo is also super important, making sure that it's up to date to what you look like now might be different than what you looked like in high school. So making sure that's updated. I know at Northwestern Mutual we use your photos throughout the internship process for interviewing, because we want everyone who's talking to you, anyone in the office, to know who you are and know what you look like and be able to recognize you. So that's something super important for us. And on the interest topic, if you're going to follow a company and then apply for a job with them, it's super important that if you're going to follow them and go to their page anyway, then you should do a little research on them, read up on their page. And that's super impressive if a recruiter asks you, what do you know about this company? And you actually know something, they're going to be really impressed with you.
Thank you. Okay, so beyond just building a profile, because LinkedIn is great, it's awesome to have a profile and have it be really robust, but the way you're gonna get the most out of this system is to actually interact with it and interact with people there. So one thing that can get you noticed is if you're posting things. So I say post on a weekly basis. You can post more, you can post less. I think this is a good happy medium. So what I mean by that is find articles. It can be original content, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be something related to the field that you're interested in. When you post or when you share things, you then show up in your connections kind of feeds on that main page. And so you stay relevant and you stay at the top of their mind. And so when they have an opening or they're like, hey, I met this person, I should introduce them to this person. I forgot about them. We met, 3 years ago at this event, but this is perfect for them. So you just stay relevant if you keep kind of showing up on their feed. So definitely do that. Collect and give recommendations. So talk to your professors, talk to your classmates that you work with on group projects, anyone that could really speak to your strengths and to your really high quality characteristics or things that you would want future employers to know about you. And those recommendations don't have to be a full-on recommendation letter like other things. They can just be a few sentences about what they did with you and why they enjoyed working with you. And then return the favor and make sure you're giving recommendations too. And then create your personalized LinkedIn URL. So I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. I'll pull it up and actually show you where to look for that. But the main thing with this is when you're putting your LinkedIn URL like on your resume or cover letter or your business card if you have one or wherever else you would put that URL, it looks a lot better if you don't have all those random letters and numbers at the end of it, if it's personalized and it says your name. Or maybe it's your name and a number or something shorter and something easier for them to type in if they're going to type it in and go directly to your profile. So I'll show you that. Anything to add?
No, I would just say the personalized URL is something that you can use just to make your resume look a little bit more professional.
All right. Okay, so you should all have an elevator pitch handout in front of you. So I'll ask that you put away like laptops and cell phones for now. We'll bring them out later when we actually work on the profiles. But grab that elevator pitch assignment. There's 2 sides to it. You can use whichever one you prefer. There's different formats for this pitch. But it basically should give a little bit about your background, your experience, your skill sets, what you're studying potentially, what you want to do in the future. So there's a bunch of different boxes that can give you ideas on what to include in that pitch. And this pitch is important because we'll eventually turn it into that kind of about section. So take a few minutes and fill that out, whichever format you prefer. And then we will get into more of the exercise portion of it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. You guys can keep filling that out, especially if you just got the handout. So another framework that you can kind of think about as far as writing your about section or writing your summary. So I like to think of it as present, past, future. And I switched past and present on purpose. And then values and talents you can kind of add in there too. So you would start with saying maybe what you're currently doing, what you're currently studying, and that kind of just makes more sense when you walk up to someone and give them your pitch instead of saying, so hi, I used to do this. It just makes more sense to say what you're currently doing. Then you can move into what you have done, your kind of areas of expertise. If you've done an internship or had a part-time job and gained some skills in certain areas, that's where you would want to mention those things. And then you can talk about what you want to do in the future. So whether that's I'm specifically looking for an internship for next summer, or in the long term I want to work in hospitality or whatever it is, kind of talking about, okay, here's what I'm doing, what I've done, and what I want to do in the future. And then I think adding in something, especially on your LinkedIn, about your values or your innate talents. So what I mean by that is values that you'd want a company to have, that you'd want a recruiter to know, okay, if my company values this, this, and this person's values align with us, they're probably going to be a good fit for our culture. And then as far as talents, I tell people, think back to the things that you've kind of always been good at. Think back to grade school. Were you the person who was really good at math all the time? Were you the person who was organizing things on the playground? Were you the person who was the best reader in class? Because those things tend to stay with you. If you can't think of some of those things, if you're not sure what your strengths are, ask your friends, ask your family, the people that are closest to you, because sometimes we don't know that about ourselves until we really sit down and think about it, and it's hard to come up with those things, but the people around you who know you best can usually tell you what you're good at or what they come to you for. All right, so this is just another way to think of it. I know you have multiple formats now of ways that you can craft your pitch or craft that about section. Anything you want to add about the summary or about?
The summary is just a great way for you to get your personality through in your LinkedIn profile. So yes, it's a business social media, but you can also, it doesn't have to be so professional. You can put your own personality in there. A lot of organizations, when they're hiring for something, they're going to be looking for a certain type of personality. I know that we do. It's not necessarily like all of these skills, you have all of this experience. And sometimes a personality or, a certain type of person who has characteristics and values that they do is more important than having the experience that you can be taught if you want to do that as a career.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so LinkedIn, it's great, like I said, to have that profile up there, but really the intention is to connect with people and sometimes take it offline. So you can find a connection on LinkedIn and then make that connection in person or over the phone. So I'm gonna play you this little video about networking and the purpose of networking. Sometimes we kind of get an idea that networking is asking people for things or taking advantage of people, or it can be kind of uncomfortable, but if you think of it in the way that this video shows, it can be helpful.
What do you picture when you think about networking? Many people think of slick, self-interested people manipulating others to get things they don't deserve, or pretending to care about someone just to use them to get to someone else. But what if instead of considering networking sleazy, we reframed the way you think of it and reimagined it as something else entirely? One way to reframe networking is to picture it as asking for directions. Think back on the last time you lived or worked somewhere where you really knew your way around. Can you remember a time when a stranger came up and asked you for directions? What happened? If you were able to point them in the right direction, how did you feel? Did you feel like they were using you? No. If you're like most people, you felt good about being able to help someone out. In general, just like you're happy to give directions to a stranger, most people enjoy doing small things to help others. And asking for help finding people or information in a professional context is actually a lot like asking where you can find the nearest ATM or coffee house. Networking allows people inside a community to help people like you, who may be from outside the community, find their way, learn new things, and better participate in a domain or type of work. And the community benefits from bringing new people into the conversation too. The more introductions that are made, the more information everyone has to take advantage of. Good networking is just like asking for directions. And people are happy to help. The point isn't to do networking. The goal is to become part of the network. And someday, you'll help someone too.
All right, so if you think of networking in that way, it's a little bit less intimidating, and I've found that it doesn't feel as much like you're asking someone for something. It's more about asking for guidance. So on that note, we're going to go into another exercise. So you should have your top a sheet that says my top 5 areas of expertise or my top 5 networks. So what I want you to think of with this, you all have done a lot of things in your life. You're connected to people whether you know it or not. So think about your areas of expertise, things that people could go to you for. So an example could be, I'm a swimmer. I'm really involved in that community. I've done it my whole life. I could probably, if someone was interested in getting to learn how to swim, I could probably make some introductions for them. Or I did an internship at blah, blah, blah company. If anyone's interested in getting connected with that company, I could probably make an introduction to my old supervisor. Or I'm really involved with the marketing or hospitality department, or I work for one of the departments on campus. So if a student really wanted to know more about that major, I could introduce them to some faculty members. Or my family has a history of whatever, we work in this industry, or my dad owns this company, or my mom works here, she's the CEO of this firm. So think about those places that you could probably help other people meet people that they want to meet for their future. So just come up with those top 5 areas that you could potentially make some introductions for people. Okay, so from here, I want you to get into groups of about 5 or 6 people. So people that are nearby you, you can form a little circle. It's probably harder to do this in your row, so you might need to turn around and work with someone working in front of you or behind you. But get into groups of about 5 or 6. I want you to each go around and say your elevator pitch, practice giving that, and then tell them your 5 areas of expertise. If you, hearing your classmate give their 5 areas and one of those is something that you're interested in, follow up, get their contact information. Maybe you connect with them on LinkedIn after this. But I want you guys to see how you can be a resource to one another with this. All right, go ahead. Okay, let's bring it all back together. I hope you all at least got to hear one another's pitches. All right, I'd love to know, did anyone kind of make a connection with somebody in here that could potentially introduce them to someone else who might be helpful, or find any similarities in that way? Exchange information? Good. No one wants to share. That's okay. Smiling and nodding. I'll go with that. Okay. So, this clicker, I'm telling you. All right, so when you do decide to connect with someone on LinkedIn, I highly recommend using a personalized note. So you have that option when you click on connect on their profile. It'll give you a little area where you can type in a short message to them. So just make sure you're always sending that. It could be a reminder of where you met. It could be like, hey, we have this class together, or I met you at this career fair, or whatever it might be. But that just helps to jog their memory of where they met you. especially if it's someone that you don't know. So if you're reaching out to somebody for an informational interview or a potential connection within a company, or maybe it's an alum that someone told you to reach out to, filling that part out, it's much more likely that they're going to respond to you and accept your request if they know why you're reaching out. So I'd recommend connecting at least right now with people that you know. So your classmates, your advisors, your professors, former teachers, your coaches, all of that kind of stuff. And just remember that this isn't necessarily Instagram or Twitter. It's different than other social media where some of you might not be, but some of you might be kind of pickier about like who follows you and who sees everything, where this is a professional social media website. So if you're connected with someone, you just never know where you're going to find that. So if you're like, I don't really want my grandma to follow me on Instagram, but if my grandma has LinkedIn and she's still working, then she might know someone that can really help me, or whoever it might be, your third grade teacher. So think about those warmer connections of people you already know and connect with them, at least to start. Look up your interviewers before you have an interview. So a lot of times you'll know the interviewer's name before you go into the interview. They'll usually provide that for you most of the time. If you show the initiative to look them up, that usually it tells them that you've viewed their profile. And so the interviewer can see, oh, they're taking the initiative to figure out who I am, get to know their background, maybe how long they've been at the company, if they maybe went to DU, or at least look at kind of where they went to school, get an idea for where their career path has been. I wouldn't necessarily connect with them before the interview. You can do that after, but just showing them that you've at least taken the time to look them up and get a little background information. And then connect after networking events and career fairs. If you have a good conversation with a recruiter at a career fair or a meet and greet or something like that, send them a connection request afterwards. Maybe you thank them for their time in that message. Anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that, like Tony said, you can have anybody, as a connection. And if you get a connection request from somebody you don't know, don't deny it just because you don't know them. They could be a connection later on that's going to help you get a career that you want or a job that you want. You just really never know, and it doesn't hurt to have an extra connection. Also, with looking up your interviewers, recruiters or people who, start the interview process in a company, they do so many interviews every single day. So it's really refreshing to get someone who maybe knows something about you or asks you questions instead of just jumping right into the interview. I know an interview setting seems like it has to be like super professional and set out, but it can be conversational to start out, and getting used to it and getting to know them is something that can be important to you to kind of see the type of people that you would be working with. And then connecting with after career fairs is definitely a super important thing. Saying thank you goes such a long way, and it really makes you stand out of the pack. Recruiters get so many resumes at these types of events, so making sure that you're trying everything to set yourself aside, it would take you like 1 minute to send that, and it makes the world of difference. So definitely do that.
Thank you. Okay, so company pages. This is another feature of LinkedIn. Most companies will have a company page on LinkedIn. Some of them are more robust than others, but this is a place where companies can post jobs and internships. It's a place where you can learn about if we have alums there, if we have potential connections for you there. You can check out their employees' career paths. So I'll show you that in a second. I'll pull that up at the end and show you exactly where you can click to find that stuff, but you can see all of their employees if that employee is on LinkedIn. And then you can utilize the employee search to find hiring managers. So there's a search where you can go into all of their employees and then type in a keyword for their job title. So if you're applying somewhere and you're writing a cover letter and you're not sure who the job contact is, because we always recommend trying to find a real person to address that cover letter to rather than just to whom it may concern or dear hiring manager. It really goes a long way if you find out who that person is that's going to be reading the letter. So if it's not right on the job description or the website, sometimes you can go in and search for like recruiter or talent acquisition or HR or someone who could potentially give you that information and reach out to them, say, hey, who would be the contact for this role? I'm really interested and I'm sending in my application soon. So sometimes that's a good way to figure out who that contact actually is. Anything on that?
Hello? Just personalizing things if you're going to send that in, again, just sets you ahead of anybody else who maybe wanted to apply for the same thing but decided not to go the extra effort, and you just put yourself one step ahead of any other candidate. So extra effort is never something that goes unnoticed.
All right, university pages. So this is another thing that can be really helpful if you're trying to find alumni or trying to figure out, do we have any alums that work in whatever company you're interested in or whatever industry you're interested in. So if you go to, if you search, and I'll show you this too, if you search University of Denver or University of Denver Daniels, and then click on the alumni tab on that university page, it'll pull up all of our alums who have that school on their profile. And then you can search by industry, location, their job title, all kinds of stuff to find people to connect with on LinkedIn. So I'll show you that in a little bit, but just know that that's a really cool feature as well. Okay, so finding jobs and internships. There's something called linkedin.com/student jobs. This is a good place to find jobs and internships. And one nice thing, once you have your profile completely filled out and you feel really good about it, you can actually use it to apply on LinkedIn. Now, I caution you, if you're gonna do this, you might wanna go to the company website or Pioneer Careers, see if that job is also posted somewhere else and apply that way too, just in case. But it's a kind of a nice, easy way to apply if you find something on LinkedIn that you're interested in. Anything to add on those things?
If you do apply on LinkedIn, like the easy apply, and you don't want to apply through any other site, maybe if they have the person listed on the job description, just sending another email saying like, hey, just applied, super excited. It's just another way to connect with whoever the hiring manager is.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so now I'm actually gonna show you some of these pages that I'm talking about. If I can pull it up. All right, so when you go to edit your public profile and URL, this is where, so you would click on your profile once you've got it set up, and then you could go edit public profile and URL. And then once you get here, there's a little pencil here, and that's where you can edit it. So I would recommend doing something like your name, or if you have a common name, you could do your name plus a number at the end, or just something short, like an email that you could use to shorten that URL. Another thing, the student jobs section. So when you type in that URL, the linkedin.com/student jobs, this is what will show up. There's a ton of stuff in here. This is all really awesome, but if you want to get to the actual job postings, you would click see all the student jobs, and then it would look something more like this. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is if there's a job posting on here, it'll show you, so this is showing Minnesota because that's where I went, but this would say DU for you all, and it would tell you if we have any alums working there. So then you could click on that and figure out, okay, is there someone I could reach out to that could maybe give me a little bit of advice in applying for this, or maybe I could do an informational interview with them about their time at that company. So that's a nice area to look in, and then all of the filters are right at the top here. And then this is an example of a company page. This is where, over here, this is where you would click to see all of their employees. And so once you click on that, then it brings you to another page where you can put in those filters and search by keyword for their employees. And then lastly, so up here is where I would type in the company name or the university name. And then once you get to this university page, then you can click on this alumni tab. And then from here, this is going to pull up a bunch of our alums, pretty much any Daniels person that has Daniels on their LinkedIn. And then you can filter by where they live, where they work. There's industry, what they do, what they studied, tons of stuff. And then you could also search right here for their job title or the specific company that you might be interested in too. So those are all kind of the featured pages and what they actually look like that I was talking about. Any questions about any of these pages? Just to clear that up right now. Okay. You'll have a chance to ask questions at the end too if you don't want to ask them right now. So I'm going to turn it back over to Peyton to talk a little bit more about her company and some of the opportunities that they might have for you all.
Yeah, absolutely. So Northwestern Mutual, like I said, is a comprehensive financial planning organization. So basically what we do is help individuals plan for financial security. So if you're interested in finance, or there is the relationship building aspect is super prominent in our internship. So networking, we've talked about it a bunch today. It's super important in the field of a career that you're looking for, and it's really prominent in Northwestern Mutual. So our internship program, we have a lot of open slots. We don't have a certain amount, so if you're interested in applying, definitely apply, because you never know if it'll be something that you want to try. That's what internships are for. But it's open to every major, so you don't have to be a finance major, or even in business, you could be a biology major if you wanted to be. But we really train you to be up on everything that you need to know, the language, the training, how to use our systems, everything in that sense. We're really just looking for a certain individual who is really a people person, has the grit and determination to be successful, wants to get out there, network themselves, build their market, and just it really has an interest in learning and is coachable. So if you guys are interested in the internship at all, you can talk to Annie, my coworker, or myself, and we can give you a little bit more information about it. But yeah.
Thank you. All right, so now, I know I asked you to put your laptops away earlier, but if you have your laptop, I'm going to ask you to open it up and start setting up your LinkedIn profile. So if you already have one, look at the rubric and just make sure it follows all of our guidelines. This is also your opportunity to come down and talk to Annie or Peyton about the internship or about Northwestern Mutual, and we're going to walk around and kind of answer questions and just make sure you guys are on the right track if anyone needs help. Before you leave, if you got one of their feedback forms, make sure you drop it off in front, fill it out and drop it off, and then make sure you check out with Greg on the way out too. He's down here in the front. Or Katie as well, down here. So either one of them you can check out with once you're done with your profile or done working on it today. But yeah, this is your time to work on that assignment. Oh, yes. The video will be posted on Canvas. Yes. I will do that if we can find it. This one? Okay, cool. I will leave that up for you. Oh, yes. Other questions? Yeah, yep. If you've completed your LinkedIn and had it approved before through taking this class before or through the old DPDP program, you guys can check out and head out.